Recce Pharmaceuticals has made some progress in its development of a new class of synthetic anti-infectives. So let's get the latest on the test results that have come through recently. And Recce CEO James Graham joins me in studio. James, it's nice to meet you in person. Thank you.
Nadine,
Thanks
good to
for
meet you
coming
too.
in. Okay, get us across the news.
Well, it's exciting. We've been able to demonstrate under the TGA's special access scheme that our compound is both safe and well tolerated, but works with antibiotic-resistant infections. That being infections for diabetic foot ulcers, complicated skin structure infections, post-surgery infections, drug-resistant infections, which is the fundamental global health threat as a whole. And to be able to see go from a really infected drug-resistant state to an entirely cured state where the person's able to go out and reintegrate with family life is just something wonderful to see. So there's some ugly but then beautiful photos in our recent ASX release, and it's great to be able to see that.
Yeah, well, I did look. And yeah, I mean, so what happens from here now that you have, those positive results from that special access scheme?
Well, really, we look to our activities as a new class of antibiotics, really, in fact, the most clinically advanced new class of antibiotic in the world at this time of over 40 years, from a portfolio where we have compounds being topically administered, by example, for those topical wound infections, a compound being intravascularly administered. Right at this moment, in fact, we've recently completed a phase 1 study of about 60 healthy volunteers who all received Recce, up to and including 6,000 milligrams intravascularly. That one's focused for septicemia, the number one most expensive condition treated in health. And that is actually the most clinically advanced sepsis drug candidate in the world at this time. So when we look clinically, we look to major unmet medical needs and large patient populations burdened by the rise of antibiotic resistance. And that be, intravascularly for sepsis and urinary tract infections as the underlying precursor to that. Topically for complicated skin and skin structure infections, nasally perhaps for sinusitis, where we've had some clinical indications in special access scheme, and as a whole, the infectious disease crisis we're faced with.
Yeah, there is a lot going on
there is.
At Recce. You're juggling a lot of balls. So what is likely going to be the first sort of application commercially?
Look, I think likely just due to the less invasive nature of a topical application would be probably a first to market. In fact, from where we are today, one could say it could be possible or reasonable to have a marketable product in approximately 18 months. I mean, here in Sydney, we manufacture our compound itself to GMP specifications, supportive of the phase 1, phase 2 studies. And if we were to move into a phase 3 study, we're very well prepared to do that, meaning it's a streamlined process from here to market and hopefully beyond. So intravascularly, that of course being a larger, more systemic review from a technical perspective, you'd probably be looking at 2.5 to 3 years, but each septic patient costs on average about $120,000 each, with no existing treatment for those patients, and about 30 million worldwide each year getting that. It's a market worth pursuing, and it's one we're actively engaged in.
Okay, so you ended last quarter, because you did put out a 4C with a cash balance of $1.562 million. I've got it in front of me. I won't test you on it.
No, I could have told you the number.
Yeah, okay. So how far is that going to take you?
Yeah, so we announced that quarterly, which of course was at the end of last quarter.
Yeah.
We since that time have obviously had an R&D rebate, an R&D advance, I should say. I think it's well promulgated and recognised that, in fact, I think the first sentence says we're likely to do a capital raising.
Yep.
But the capital raising is a constrained capital raising in the context of quantum. Look, we could raise, without asking anyone, up to 25% of our company's value, which is about $120 million in value, so do the numbers there. We're going to raise about $15 million. It's going to be cornerstoned by a very large, well-known, top-tier institution, with only the remainder available for existing shareholders being the intention. I say existing shareholders because you can't sell now and then expect to pick up your rights, because you've got to have shares to begin with. It's the nature of a rights issue. But I would anticipate that being a successful raise, a well-priced raise, No options. We don't like the overhang of those, which we're seeing too often among other companies, and one that'll position us for 12 to 18 months of capital on a fully committed basis to get ahead with these urgent programs.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You're not capital raising to cover costs or operational or anything. Like, this is the nature of...
It's event-driven.
Exactly. You've got to complete these trials, and you need the tick from the previous to get going.
That's right.
To need that money. Okay, so... This is such a large addressable market. You've referenced that. It's such a big problem, drug resistancy as well. I mean, I'm reticent sometimes to even take antibiotics just to...
Well, they no longer work. I mean, it doesn't do what it says on the bottle, and people expect to, the pharmaceutical companies go, we're not making as much money out of these. Well, they say that publicly. Internally, you've only got to look at the record. They're making plenty of money. But the reason for that is, why would people pay a premium price for something that doesn't work like it used to? I mean, I remember the days you take one antibiotic prescription and you'll get better. Now you go back for the same infection, take these, and the follow-on repeats just to get over that same infection. And the reason why, the bacteria are mutating and the antibiotics are not keeping up. So if you want a premium price, you've got to have a product that works, one that does what it says on the box, and of course, one that keeps on working with repeated use. And that is exactly where we're positioned.
So you were sort of a little bit disparaging of Big Pharma just there, but I mean, you must, like, Recce itself must be getting a lot of attention, or are you?
Well, we are. So we're actually delivering the opening R&D address at the World AMR Congress, AMR being the Global Superbug Congress, in about a month's time. Okay. And we're there delivering that address, positioned as a sign of new hope in the fight against superbugs. I mean, I'd love to say the big pharmaceutical companies that have requested meetings with us, one might begin with P, another might begin with R, they might be from different years without giving too much away.
Yeah.
But they really, they say there's a problem, we don't make enough money from our antibiotics. You only got to look at their balance sheet, and they are creaming it because, of course, antibiotic prevalence or antibiotic resistance is growing, antibiotic uptake is increasing with that. And the antibiotics for these unmet medical needs, meaning not serviced by existing drugs, is in the millions. Mm-hmm. And that is exactly the space we're in, and that's the space we seek to play ahead.
Okay. Look, share price. A lot of sort of biotech, medtech companies have come under a lot of pressure. Your share price actually has not performed too poorly, given that context. But what do you think is going to be, I mean, this announcement obviously gave it a big kick. What's the next sort of major catalyst to push the share price higher?
Well, look, I'll be a little self-interested for a moment here and say only a few weeks ago, I personally bought another $310,000 of stock, our stock on the market, 500,000 shares. I think that was an average of about 62.5 cents per share. So I'm all about opportunity. I'm okay for the opportunity that pricing created. And that really positions me, as has always been the case as the founding investor in almost every capital round to date, for the time ahead. I'm not here for a job, I'm here for capital appreciation and delivering on our milestones. And with that, of course, we have cohorts going through in our fast administration for urinary tract infections happening in both New South Wales and South Australia. We have our special access scheme patient program for these complicated drug-resistant infections happening around us as we speak, and a wonderful array of additional news flow events, which I can't be too particular on, but be assured they're keeping us busy in the near term.
Yeah, well, it does sound like you're busy and traveling quite a lot as well. So do you get out and speak to shareholders a lot? Or is it most...
I love talking to shareholders, yeah. Half of my job is talking to shareholders, which I do love dearly, and it really, yes, it is. Whether it's stakeholders with the big pharmaceutical companies, institutional shareholders, or future investors, retail, media, it's always a pleasure. All the way through to the esteemed professors. I get to meet some interesting people, and it's fun.
It would be an interesting position to be in. Look, we'll continue to track your progress. We've been speaking to you since Ausbiz launched. And that is Recce Pharmaceuticals CEO James Graham joining us in studio. Thanks for coming in.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Ticker code is RCE.